Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. I don't normally live stream at this time of day, so we'll see how this goes. Welcome to Papal Lawyer Apologetics 101. Now, Papal Lawyer Apologetics 101 is a course. Now, it's 101. So these are intro books to the papacy. Papal Lawyer Apologetics 101. So what's up? Who's in the chat? Come on. So the point is, you know that I've responded to certain critics of the papacy. Gavin Ortland, Ubi Petrus, and Ken Temple. I've been responding to him for years. So Ken, if you're watching, God bless you. Now, a lot of people are always contacting me on social media, and they're asking me, where do I begin with researching these topics? And I can explain where to begin. Now, there's a good top 10 list by my friend Eric Ibarra. It's a very good list, but there's one drawback of that list. A lot of the books are have been out of print for 80 years, and trying to find them is like a needle in a haystack. When you can find them, you got to pay $120. They're good books. It's a good list, but it's a bit inaccessible. Now, my top 10, these books are all cheap. And they're all accessible. You can go on Amazon and order them. They'll be at your place in a few days. They're not that expensive. There's one exception, but I had to have the exception here because it's just so darn good. All right. So without further ado, here is my top 10. Number one, in fact, my number one and number two are both educational. And number one is this baby right here, The Gift of Infallibility by Bishop Vincent Fair Gasser. This is what's known as the Relatio. I first heard about this in a debate with long time ago between William Albrecht and Turretin Fan. And basically, this teaches you what papal infallibility is. This was written to explain what happened at the council. And yeah, no, it's a very good book, very, very simple to get. So and it gives examples and stuff like that. So the Gift of Infallibility by Vincent Fair Gasser, translated by Reverend James T. O'Connor, published by Ignatius. Very easy to get. You can probably get this for $20 on Amazon, less if you're in the States. So yeah, this is where to begin. This baby right here. Second is Cardinal Manning's book, The Ecumenical Council and the Infallibility of the Roman Pontiff. Now, this one, don't worry. We'll get to that, Father James. Glad you to join us. In fact, you're going to like the next book I recommend after this one. Anyway, this is Cardinal Manning's book. It's a really good complement to this book, the first book. It explains, it basically contrasts it because keep in mind, the whole idea of papal infallibility at Vatican I was being attacked from two sides. It was a two-front war. You've got Ultramontanus and you had the Gallicans. And Vatican I was a nice, happy medium there. And this goes after the Gallicans, explains that they're not the true model, and then the papacy got elevated. It's a very good book. In fact, I don't think there's a lot of polemics against Gallicanism because, in all fairness, they're mainly in the second millennium. One could argue that Charlemagne was a proto Gallican, but I like this book. These two are basically education books, not so much apologetics. All right, here we go. Now, I said that my list is cheap and accessible. There is one exception, and here's the exception right now. Dun, dun, dun. This book right here. It's called The Church and the Papacy by Trevor Jalland, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but Jalland. This guy's an Anglican. This is my favorite book on the history of the papacy. Shout out to Father James, who's in the chat. This is he's pretty non-biased, and the way he deals with the patristic material is just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. Now when he does deal with scripture, his scholarship does betray some bad scholarship at the time, because there was some really liberal biblical scholarship in the first half of the 20th century. So it's unfortunate. It seeps into here. It's not Jalen's fault. That's all he was exposed to. And promoted. But no, amazing book. Now, this book is hard to get. Try A-Books, try Amazon, but it is worth it if you can get a copy of this book. I managed to get mine for about $35, including shipping. It was a steal. But not everyone's that lucky. But no, this is an amazing book. I can't say enough good things about this book. And by the way, if you're Catholic, if you're Eastern Orthodox, oh, sweet. There you go, guys. There you go. Thank you, Hugh. Now, I'm saying, if you're Catholic or Eastern Orthodox or Anglican, this book will make you uncomfortable, because it says things that all three of those groups will disagree with. And a thing that's interesting about this book, the way he tackles the Photian schism, because the Photian schism, it's normally talked about between Catholics and Eastern Orthodox in terms of apologetics. It's being approached with an apologetic mentality. And he comes from an Anglican point of view. So he's got no axe to grind either way. And he kind of gives an interesting view on it. Okay, Kyle, what's the name of the book? The book is The Church and the Papacy by Trevor Jalland, Jalland. Yeah, amazing book. It's the one book that's hard to find, and it'll probably be expensive if you do come across it. Although it's free on archive.org. Unfortunately, I can't read a whole lot on the screen. If it's an epistle or something, I could read it, but my eyes are horrific. As my optometrist said, I'm in the bottom 2% of the population. My eyes are very bad. So it's okay if I read paper, but to try to read a screen for more than 20 minutes is, it's not fun. So yeah, that's book number 3 of the 10. No problem, Kyle. Now, this one is not so much about the papacy. It's about the ecumenical councils, but you need to know how they worked, because, of course, the papacy played a role leading up to them, signing them, promulgating one. Now, the Pope was not at the councils. He just sent his legates. But here, Leo Donald Davis, the first 7 ecumenical councils. And so you need to know how this, basically how the councils function, because they're going to try to throw, Constantinople II, Pope Vigilius, ha ha ha. And there's a whole nuance to that. It's actually very good. And it's actually very, very unbiased. I don't even know if this author's a Catholic, to be honest. He might be. Oh, no, he's a Jesuit. It says Leo Donald Davis, S.J., so he's a Jesuit. Okay. Next book. Drumroll. Now, this book is basically a Catholic apologetics, but they make it's very biased in the Catholic direction. But here it is. It's called The Roman Primacy by Luke Rivington. And it basically talks about the Council of Ephesus and the Council of Chalcedon and everything relevant involving those. And of course, it touches on the Council of Ephesus too, the infamous Robber Synod. How could I forget that, Father James? It talks about the Robber Synod, and it talks about John of Antioch and stuff. It's a really good book. Again, super cheap and easy to find. In fact, I checked this out on Amazon just before I got in Canada. It's like $20, and it's in stock. So yeah, cheap, and it's good, and you can have it soon. Again, all these books are cheap and easily available, except for the one, obviously. All right. Ora pro nobis. Okay, now this is a tiny little book. It's like 30 or 40 pages. Very small writing. It's hard on my bad eyes again. It's The Condemnation of Pope Honorius by Dom John Chapman. Now, if you debate the papacy, you're going to hear the name Honorius because Honorius is probably one of the two popes that gets brought up the most. The other one's Pope Vigilius, and that's an interesting episode as well. But for Pope Honorius, he's the guy you want to read, and he's actually got another book where he's got a chapter on Pope Vigilius. But you're going to hear Pope Honorius. You're going to hear this name all the time, and I won't go explain the situation in him now. But this is actually a way to turn the tables. Now, unfortunately, it's not that relevant against Protestants, because Protestants, I mean, this is late 7th century. Normally, that's not good enough for them. But I think by, let's face it, because there's people who say, oh, you don't got the papacy until the 11th century or the 9th century or the 8th century or long time after you need. And this is one of the pieces of evidence they use for that. But there's something. I think the Vigilius issue is more difficult for us historically than the issue of Honorius. Yes, that's true. In fact, I'm going to make an admission here. For Protestants, well, for Protestants, it's probably already too late. I notice Protestants tend to give you about to 400. It's like if you can't make a serious case by then, it's done. But in terms of Orthodox, they give you the whole first millennium. So Pope Vigilius, I'll say this. It's their best piece of evidence against the papacy. And you guys have heard of Eric Ibarra. He agrees. It's their best case. So if you're an anti-papal person, Pope Vigilius is the toughest thing we have to deal with. I still have answers, and I think they're pretty good, but that's the best case. This is probably more popular than Pope Vigilius. It's not as good, and it's especially good because you can turn it around on them. So The Condemnation of Pope Honorius by Dom John Chapman. And I think I also said in a book, Studies, I got the book right there. It's not part of the, well, just hold on. Okay, it's not part of the top 10, but it's got an honorable mention. Studies on the Early Papacy. He's got a whole, it's the same author, Dom John Chapman. He's got a whole section on Pope Vigilius. And so, so that's the best piece of evidence, in my opinion. But still, Pope Honorius' argument's more popular. So a lot of people choose to go for that one. All right. Now, I know what you're saying. Yo, Alan, you always tell us to read primary sources. Where are the primary sources? Here they come. Now, the sermons and letters of Pope Leo the Great. This is a nice tome here. Pope Leo the Great was pope from I think it was 440 to 461. What's up, Elijah? From 440 to 461, and there is so much good stuff in here in terms of papacy. And in terms of Catholic apologetics against Protestants, like, he is as Catholic as you can get. He believes in the real presence, baptismal regeneration, Works are part of salvation. The intercession of saints, you name it, he's probably talked about it. And there's so much here. Of course, I got so many notes on this guy. I keep my notes inside the cover here. Yeah, so great for the papacy, but also great for a lot of other things too. Great stuff. I recommend. So the letters and sermons of Pope Leo the Great. Definitely get it. All right. And again, it's cheap and easy available. And it's also part of the Shaft set. All right. Now, this is a less common church father, but he's earlier. And he's probably, I'd say he's equally as papal as Pope Leo the Great. And he's earlier. So he carries more weight with a Protestant. So for example, Pope Leo was pope in the mid 5th century. That's awfully late for a lot of Protestants. In terms of Orthodox, they have to accept that. But in terms of Protestants, they'll say, yeah, that's like what? Like Chalcedon was 420 years after Jesus. A lot can happen in that time. That's like saying 1600 until now. And that's a fair argument. So this guy was a bit earlier. He was about 100 years earlier. The works of Saint Optatus, Bishop of Malevis, against the Donatists. He is a church father that's not as well known. No, I'm not going to say him. That's Trent Horn's job. Trent Horn's going to talk about Ignatius. Yeah, that's in the letter to Pulcheria. I believe it's letter 105. It's in there. So, okay. Back to this one. This guy's a forgotten church father. Most people haven't read his stuff. Again, it's cheap. This book's like $20 on Amazon. You can have it shipped in a few days. So it's a good church father, especially if you're dealing with the Donatist controversy. I think this church father, he's not talked about in the medieval age. I think it says in the intro that he only became well known until the he became popular in the late 16th century in France. I can't remember why. It's been a while since I've read the book, but yeah, no, it's good. It's got a good introduction. He talks about a good subject. He talks about the Donatists. In terms of controversies in the first millennium, I like the Donatist controversy the most because of its Pope Stephen, if it's Optatus, if it's Saint Augustine. They're all defending papal authority, and it's pretty much because the popes really brought down the hammer on the Donatists. It's brilliant. So yeah, the works of Saint Optatus, very simple to read as well, nothing too hard there. But the modern day Catholic Church accepts. Yeah, that's true. I'm assuming if you're talking about Canon 28, we accepted it at the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215, when we, the Catholic Church, controlled the Patriarchate of Constantinople, since we controlled the city of Constantinople. Okay, all right. Another primary source. I'm doing the primary source stuff. This is a church historian from the 5th century, so it's a bit later, but he covers everything from around the time of Nicaea to about the 430s, 440s. He's also a very good source. By the way, he says Pope Liberius. Now, there's contradictory statements on this, but something you'll also hear is Pope Liberius. Half the sources say he signed, have said he didn't sign. He says he didn't sign, whereas Sozeman, unfortunately, says he did sign. But there's actually a lot of instances of papal authority in this, in the 4th century, from Pope Julius to Pope Damasus, etc. It's it's great. A lot of info in here. It's It's part of the Shaft set. It's available online for free if your eyes can stand to read a screen that long. But I do recommend it. If you made a video or article responding to Craig's claims against the formula for Mizdas, he's really the only one who makes those claims. I don't think Ubi Petrus even makes those. See, that's the thing. As soon as you get to things in the 6th century, all the arguments start to contradict, because Craig is essentially lifting whole cloth from papalism, but by Denny, but Petrus takes another thing. For me, the thing I use for the formula for Mistus is a completely separate argument. And I use that to say, no matter what the Patriarch of Constantinople appended, no matter what was taken out or forged in, they all agree that Acacius is firmly condemned, which vindicates Pope Felix. So, yeah, no, anyway, I'm off topic here, but no, just amazing book. And it's an early source too. And it's an early historian. It's not just a church father, like I'm not knocking church fathers, but this guy's a historian. And it's really good for learning about the whole church as well. And, and by the way, if you think confession to a priest is a medieval thing, read this book. Constantine was defending it. And also in Constantinople, anyway, long story, but it's good for a lot of things, similar to Pope Leo, but it's great for papal authority because you will see the role the Pope played in the 4th and early 5th century. Okay, now it's an interesting one. Father James and I have discussed this guy. It's the last of the 10, and he's kind of a late church father, probably early medieval borderline, but he gives a good history, and that is The Ecclesiastical History of the English People by Venerable Bede. Shout out to Corinth if you're watching. See, now he basically talks about England and how the admin there was fully submissive to the Pope. In fact, in 681 or 680, I can't remember, they sign a creed. There's the Synod of Hatfield. They had a creed with the filioque in it. So for those saying, they were Orthodox till William the Conqueror came. No, sorry. And then they send it to the Pope for approval. The Pope had to sign off on it. Obviously, the Pope being complete authority. And there's other statements too. Now, this book's not about the papacy. It's about the church in England. But there's constantly like oversight from the Pope. And if you want the most pro-papal part of this book, go to book 3, chapter 25. It's about 10 pages, which is actually pretty long for a chapter in this book, but read it from front till the end, and on the last page of that chapter is the punchline. The venerable and polemical Bede. He actually, but in terms of Venerable Bede, take his views on the papacy aside, he has tons of good commentaries, tons of good chronicles. Like, I'm trying to find it. I can't. Well, I got his commentary on the Acts of the Apostles. So, his papal views aside, really good scholarship. This guy was an encyclopedist, completely brilliant. I've got some more commentaries of him over there and some more writings, but he's a really good guy to read. Amazing stuff. But of course, in terms of the papacy, read this Ecclesiastical History of the English People by Bede. That's a great name, Bede. I'm surprised it's not used more. This is the commentary. Okay, so those are the top 10. So they're all pretty simple to get, except for the one book by Trevor Jalland. So, exactly. Just read anything by Bede. It's all brilliant. That's his most famous book here, but there's a lot of good stuff. I've got a lot of. In fact, I'm trying to study the Bible only from Catholic saints. Only from Catholic saints. But now, these saints could be first or second millennium. But in terms of the first millennium, it's hard to find better commentaries than Venerable Bede. I've got his commentaries on the Catholic epistles over there. But no, just brilliant stuff. Okay, now I'm going to make two honorable mentions. These books are easy to find, but they're expensive. The Acts of the Lateran Synod of 649. Oh, what's up, Yale? The Acts of the Lateran Synod of 649. You've probably seen Elijah and I respond to everyone's favorite anonymous polemicist, Ubi Petrus. We basically spent 4 hours and shredded his article about this. This is good stuff. Now, one downside to this, apart from the fact that it's expensive, it's a tad dry. I mean, you've got 5 sessions. You've got hundreds of pages dealing with Christ having 2 wills. That's the Orthodox position, but it's a tad dry, you know. It's I've not read that book. It's on my list. You've I read Papacy, and that was good. So I'm gonna follow Papacy with that book. Unfortunately, I have my next 10 or so books planned out, but this book, oh man, this book, like Stephen of Door's letter, and there's also other stuff there too, but you need to do this. And of course, at the beginning, it gives a good about 80-page introduction to the whole council, what was going on with the ecthesis, the typos, etc. All right, I've got another book, and this book, before Ubi Petrus equals J. Dyer's alter ego using some voice modifier plus some anonymous diorite who is the actual Ubi Petrus. It's a workable theory. Yeah, by the way, expect more responses to Mr. Petrus on mine and Elijah's channel. Yeah, okay. So I've got one more honorable mention, and that is Sieczynski. Now, in terms of dealing with the patristic material, the biblical material, he deals with modern scholarship. That's better scholarship that no, I've had them in the same I've seen them in the same room because he came on his live stream once. So and by the way, although his arguments are refutable, his arguments are way better than J. Dyer's against the papacy. Okay, so the papacy and the Orthodox. Now, there's a few downsides to this book. A few downsides here. Now, I'm going to say this is a nice book. In terms of nice, just the cover is just so nice. The printing, the ink just comes out at you. It's just a very nice book. Very nice book. Now, unfortunately, it's expensive. I saw it on Amazon for like $96 Canadian. Me, I got it for $46. Like I was monitoring it, and one day it was super cheap. I'm like, buy. So I got a brand new, way cheaper than they have it now. Like his fluctuates in price. It's not as good as his Filioque book. His Filioque book is the better of the two. I've got that book somewhere around here. That's a better two. This book is not as good. In fact, this book, in terms of dealing with the biblical data, it doesn't have the rank liberalism that Jelland has. Now, of course, that's not Jelland's fault. He was dealing with the popular stuff in his day. There's been some pushback against it, but it's not a whole lot better today. Again, that's not Sieczynski's fault. He's just dealing what's in front of him. The way he deals with the first 1,000 years, because keep in mind, this is a Catholic Orthodox dialogue, is not as good as Trevor Jelland. He's But a thing that's very interesting about this book, my favorite part of this book, is as soon as you get to 1054, the whole thing in 1054 was not the papacy. It was not the filioque. It was certain liturgical customs such as unleavened bread and fasting on Saturday and, pre-shaving their beards and things like that. Not what you would think about. The filioque was kind of thrown in there as a secondary thing. So that's 1054. As soon as you get to the 1060s, the filioque is put up there with the unleavened bread. Now, the papacy is not a big thing until the 12th century in terms of Orthodox. So it kind of gives a history of the papacy and how they've traditionally attacked the papacy post-schism. I don't think he deals with the patristic material as well. Mind you, it's hard to do because there's so much in that first 1,000 years. There's tens of thousands of pages of documents. But I think Trevor Jolland does do a better job. But again, this is a nice book. And if you guys can find this book cheaper than they have it listed now, by all means, do it. So, okay, there's a top 10 with 2 honorable mentions. Now, Father James is really going to like what I'm about to say, because I'm going to say one more thing. Now, as soon as you've equipped yourself with all that knowledge, you have to test your knowledge. So a good testing of the knowledge comes from an Anglican book, because Anglicans were always the best critics of the papacy, especially in the 19th century and early 20th century. They had some really good stuff against the papacy. And a book that is fairly competent, it's not that long, it's easy to read, it's straight to the point, is The Roman Primacy to AD 461 by B.J. Kidd. Now, the reason he goes 461 is that's when Pope Leo the Great he died. And in terms of Pope Leo, the last 30 pages of this book are on Pope Leo, because pretty much I've noticed most Anglicans identify him as the game changer. I don't think that was on the list, but hold on, I'll get to that at the end. So this book is a very good. It's polemical. It's not. He makes no apology. He's biased against the papacy. It's not like Trevor Jolland, who's pretty fair and balanced. He's trying to be neutral as possible. He makes no qualms. He's an enemy of the papacy, but he's fair with the data. He's very honest with the data, but he makes good arguments. And as soon as you've read those books that I just recommended, test yourself against this. It's good. It's a short book, 153, 158 pages or something like that. A very good book. So if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat right now. I'll answer them, then I'll kill the stream. But and again, this book is easy to find. It's cheap. Pretty much all these books are easy to find, except Jolland, and they're all cheap except Jolland. This is about $50 or $60 Canadian, and it's hard to get Sachensky cheap. This book, if you want to deal with Eastern Orthodox, you pretty much have to read it, because they're all going to be reading it. But hopefully he does have a third book coming out, which I'm excited to read. It talks about like all the liturgical stuff the Orthodox objected to, such as the unleavened bread, the beards, the fasting on Saturday, and things like that. So it's got all that. So I'm part of the Taylor Marshall Blog Club as well. I called him out for backstabbing Tim Gordon because yeah, it's not cool to backstab friends. About how he blocked all the Gordons, Tim and Dave and Tim's wife. I can't remember her name offhand, but I'm going to skip the first word. I hope I get them from Oz, at least not in New Zealand. Else I would have to pay double price if they are not available in Australia. Is there not an Amazon distribution center in Australia? And I are all part of the Marshall Group. Oh boy. I can't even brag about T March blocking me for a particular reason. I had no interaction with him I'm aware of. Would you cover the more speculative aspects of church history, masonry, and the occult? Check out Me No Catholic Show with Michael Joseph. That's really I've not done a lot of research in that category. I only like to talk about things I've looked into, like things like the papacy are good. I'm very good on like stuff involving the French Revolution, which was around that time. Oh, speaking of which, in less than a month's time, the French are going to be celebrating one of the most evil holidays in the history of the world, Bastille Day, July 14th. If you're a French Catholic and you're watching this right now, it's a blasphemy to take part in Bastille Day. Basically, you're identifying yourself as an enemy of God. I mean, if you don't know, it's a venial sin, but like I think okay. I got blocked for making a refutation video that he didn't even watch. Yeah, he doesn't watch anything now that Trump's retweeting him. Will you speak about Truth Be Told 7? He was a Catholic who went Orthodox. He was Orthodox for the longest time, and then he identified as Catholic for a year and a half. Then, like a week ago, he went back to Orthodox. I don't know why it was. He didn't really give any reasons. He's like, oh, I had good interaction with one Orthodox priest. And yeah, he didn't really give any reasons. I'd be, I'd be interested if he wanted to come on, but I don't know how I could convince him. If John Colarafi couldn't convince him, John Colarafi is that's another book. That's another book, and it's free. That book, unfortunately, that book is in PDF only. It's like 800 pages. I've got it on my computer. So if you want his book, just contact me on social media and I'll send it to you via WeTransfer. But that is a good book. It's hefty though. It's like 800 pages. But start with the ones I gave you. I agree. Bastille Day is evil. It's satanic. It's disgusting. Shame on Bastille Day. I mean, if you're Catholic, there's a French Catholic girl I follow on Twitter, and I really hope she doesn't take part in Bastille Day, because that's absolutely pure evil. Pure evil, Bastille Day. All right, it looks like all the questions are done. Is John, I made sure he has good audio. He always sounds muffed in interviews. Yo, what's up, Catholic Gabe? Hey, thanks for plugging my channel yesterday. God bless you, brother. Yeah, no. Guys, go subscribe to Catholic Gabe. He's got good stuff. And he's also got the Catholic Hour. He's part of a show with a few other Catholic YouTubers. So, yeah, so subscribe to his stuff. And Catholic Gabe, if you want to do a collab, I'm open. There are so many people who fit the driven with the wind and toss mentality. I know a guy who went Baptist, Lutheran, Anglican, Roman, and SXPX in about 3 to 5 years. You know, I know people who have gone more than that in the same amount of time. It's not unusual. Oh man. Pope Gregory the VII. What do you think of the Orthodox toll houses? Do you think it can be reconciled with purgatory? That's a weird belief. I do got to confess, I have not read any primary sources on the toll house. Um, like I've heard it described, while you go to heaven, you pass by the toll houses, and yeah, I'm not an expert on them. I think our good friend Original Wind Productions probably knows more than I do. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, are there any more questions? Or are there any video recommendations? If you guys want any video recommendations, now's the time. Oh, by the way, if there is a book, a papacy book that you guys like here, feel free to put it in the chat or in the comments. Exactly. The comments. Pope Michael. He's got a YouTube channel, Pope Michael. Have you checked it out? Yeah, no, yeah, so put your favorite books about the papacy in the comments. Let me know what you think of my list. Check out Timothy Flanders' series on mean like Christ Against the Occult. Oh, guys, and Flanders is actually having a book come out in the fall. For me, he sent me an advanced copy of the book. I've read it, and oh man, it's just brilliant. He talked about it in a video on reason and theology. My channel. I recommend my channel. Oh, by the way, if you want a good debate on the papacy, Father James and Original Wind Productions here had a debate on the papacy, which I moderated. Man, I was honored. I love moderating. I hope I can moderate in our debate again. So go to Original Wind Productions, and you can see a debate between Father James, a barely Protestant, and John Fisher, debate papal infallibility. Man, I love moderating that. In fact, I got to host a debate on my channel. I totally want that. So Father James and John, if you want to debate something, I can gladly host here. It was a great debate, by the way. So yeah, that's on his channel. After Alan Rule. Well, hopefully one day I'll cease being underrated, if you know what I mean. Anyway, point is, all right. So going once. You need to catch up with your streams and Elijah concerning the papacy. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Those Elijah videos are long. But I talked about the Relatio. He actually has some good things on the Relatio. Unfortunately, it's hours long, but he's very thorough. That's a document he knows. There's a certain apologist who likes to misquote the Relatio. I won't say his name. It's Ubi Petrus. But so if you want, check out his streams. I'm down for a debate on the papacy on your channel. Ooh, John, are you ready? All right. So, yeah, if there's not any more, I will kill the stream. Going once, going twice. So like, share, subscribe. I got to say that, right? Like, share, subscribe, and check out these books. Most of them are cheap and available. And I got pretty high. I'm at 16 viewers. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that stuff. And yeah, so check these books out. And if you... Oh, some good stuff. Although we'd have to probably figure out a topic like, yeah, yeah, we'd have to find a topic specifically in the papacy, like not is the papacy true? That's too general. Like in your case, you guys had specifically papal infallibility. That was a good debate. Anyway, something to think about for the future. And yeah, so check out these books. And yeah, they're not that expensive. And I'm going to kill the stream now. God bless you. Read the Bible every day, pray the rosary every day, and read Imitation of Christ every day. That's what I do, or at least what I try to do. Pope Peter was a good book. Well, let's put it this way. There's a reason I'm not recommending his book today. It's not, it's got a couple good points to it, but overall, it's not something that I would use. But go try it out, All right. God bless you all. Bye.